Paradise Lost, by John Milton, is widely regarded as one of the greatest poems ever written in the English language. It is an epic work that interweaves two main narratives, the biblical story of Adam and Eve as they commit the original sin and are banished from the Garden of Eden, and the story of Satan, also known as Lucifer, and the other fallen angels as they establish a new dwelling after being expelled from heaven. To understand more about the author, John Milton was an English poet born in 1608, renowned for advocating for freedom of speech and freedom of the press, ideals that clearly influenced his work. Milton opposed monarchy, and this is reflected in his sympathetic portrayal of Satan, narrating the story from the perspective of this character instead of merely branding him as a villain. Paradise Lost was first published in 1667 with 10 books and later revised in 1674 to include a total of 12 books. The work is considered Milton's greatest masterpiece, cementing his place among the greatest English poets. Although stories and poems from hundreds of years ago can be difficult to read, I hope this summary helps you understand it better, or at least find it interesting. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss our latest videos. The poem begins by addressing mankind's disobedience to God, specifically Adam and Eve's act of eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. The narrator partly blames hell's serpent, the fallen angel he calls Satan or Lucifer. This angel incited hatred, envy, and vengeance, seeing himself as equal to God, which led to a war in heaven. As a result, Satan and his allies were cast down into a fiery abyss known as hell. Satan awakens in a lake of fire in Tartarus, where he is chained in a horrifying darkness. He describes this place as a dreadful dungeon, no light, but rather darkness visible. Milton contrasts heaven, full of light, with hell, filled only with fire and shadow. Beside Satan is Beelzebub, his right-hand ally. Despite their dire circumstances, Satan does not regret the rebellion against God. Instead, he views it as an opportunity to regroup for another assault. Meanwhile, Beelzebub expresses doubt, particularly after their crushing defeat. Milton masterfully reimagines a classic story with depth and a fresh perspective, making Paradise Lost a timeless masterpiece. In the poem Paradise Lost, Satan proposes a new strategy instead of confronting God in another direct battle. He realizes that God cherishes his creations, and if the fallen angels can corrupt these creations, it would serve as an effective means of revenge. Satan makes it clear that their aim is not to do good but to exploit the power and allure of evil. To do good will never be our task, but ever to do ill our sole delight, as being the contrary to his high will whom we resist. If his providence out of our evil seeks to bring forth good, our labor must be to pervert that end, and out of good still to find means of evil. Instead of engaging in another battle in heaven, Satan proposes a proxy war, targeting humanity, God's most beloved creations. With the plan laid out, Satan and Beelzebub spread their wings and depart from the lake of fire. Many believe they did not escape their chains on their own but were allowed to leave, as this was not the punishment God intended for them. As they ascend, they survey the desolate land and conclude, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Afterward, Satan gathers the other fallen angels and encourages them to join his plan. His words have a powerful impact, awakening the slumbering angels. They assemble and are informed by Satan that their names have been erased from the book of life in heaven. But not all is lost, for even demons can be worshipped as gods in the eyes of humanity. During his speech, some prominent names among the fallen angels are revealed, including Moloch, the king of human sacrifices, and Belial, the symbol of depravity. Satan transforms the wounded and demoralized host of fallen angels into an army with a new purpose. Instead of feeling shame, they are encouraged to take pride in their evil nature. They begin constructing a grand temple in the city of Pandemonium, meaning all demons, in Greek, which becomes the central gathering place for the demons to discuss their plans. At the first council in Pandemonium, Satan candidly admits that the war in heaven was grueling and that reclaiming heaven may be impossible. He invites his allies to share their opinions. Moloch speaks first, advocating for direct warfare, proposing the use of hell's new weapons to launch a surprise attack on heaven. To him, nothing could be worse than their current fate in hell, and they have nothing left to lose. Belial, on the other hand, takes a calmer stance. He warns that their punishment could be even worse if they attack again. He suggests that perhaps God might forgive them if they wait and observe his plans. Mammon is next, rejecting the idea of war and urging them to build a kingdom in hell where they can live freely, turning hell into a realm as glorious as heaven. This idea receives widespread applause. Finally, Beelzebub proposes a different plan, targeting humanity, the new creatures God loves more than the angels. He believes they can exact their revenge by corrupting and destroying humanity without waging war. This plan garners the most support. When the votes are cast, Satan and Beelzebub's proposal is chosen as the course of action. Satan volunteers to leave hell to find the promised land, while the other demons continue discussing the construction of hell and preparing for their plan. Satan embarks on a challenging journey to leave hell, encountering massive gates guarded by mysterious figures. The gates are composed of 9 layers, 3 made of brass, 3 of iron, and 3 of adamantine alloy. As he approaches, Satan sees 2 figures, a woman with the lower body of a serpent, surrounded by a pack of dogs, and a shadowy form resembling a man. These figures are sin and death. Satan confronts the woman, demanding passage. However, the story takes a strange turn when she asks if he has forgotten who they are. She explains that they are his offspring. When he was still an angel, sin was born from his actions, emerging fully formed from Satan's head. Later, he impregnated her, and she gave birth to death. Death, in turn, impregnated sin, who bore the pack of hounds that constantly follow and torment her. They were tasked with guarding the gates of hell and holding the key to unlock it. Realizing that sin and death could be persuaded to join his plan, Satan shares his scheme to exact revenge on God. Sin, convinced, uses the key to open the gates of hell. Before Satan lies an endless void of darkness, but he chooses to fly straight into it. During his journey, he falls through the sky and is swept into a storm. Eventually, he encounters chaos and night, the rulers of this abyss. Satan explains his plan and convinces chaos and night to join him, promising that once this new world is corrupted, chaos will reign freely. Chaos points the way to a newly created world, which Satan believes to be Earth, the domain God created for humanity. Sin and death quietly follow Satan, constructing a bridge from hell to the new world, allowing demons to travel easily between the 2 realms. In Book 3, the perspective shifts to heaven, where God observes all that is unfolding. He knows Satan is heading toward Earth and understands this will lead to humanity's fall. However, God also knows that it is the free will he granted humanity that makes them distinct from angels and other creations. Returning to Satan, he discovers Earth and marvels at its breathtaking beauty. Before him stands a great gate leading to a staircase he believes connects Earth to heaven. Drawn to the sun, Satan encounters an angel standing on a hill. It is the archangel Uriel. Disguising himself as a cherub, Satan approaches Uriel, lying that he has just descended from heaven and is curious to learn about this new world and its inhabitants. Uriel, not suspecting the deception, is delighted to see an angel interested in God's creation. The angel even points Satan toward the dwelling of Adam and Eve. Armed with this crucial information, Satan thanks Uriel and departs, carrying important details about heaven. At Mount Niphates, Satan gazes at the beauty of Eden and feels nostalgic for his once pure state in heaven. He struggles internally, wondering if he could return to heaven by repenting, but quickly realizes that it is too late. His plan to corrupt and sow sin in this paradise is the only path forward. From a distance, Uriel observes the rapid changes in Satan's expression, a rare sight among cherubim, who are always full of joy. This sparks Uriel's suspicion. When Uriel begins to suspect that the cherub he met is an impostor, he immediately returns to heaven to report to Archangel Gabriel that one of the fallen angels may have found Eden. The two vow to track down the intruder before dawn. Meanwhile, Satan overcomes his internal conflict and decides to enter Eden. He spots two prominent trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Transforming into a bird, Satan perches on a branch of the tree of knowledge, observing the scenery below. Among the animals, his attention is drawn to two creatures standing upright on two legs. Overcome with envy and anger, Satan remembers why he came here. These are the new creatures created after his own fall. Satan eavesdrops on a conversation between Adam and Eve. Adam reminds Eve to obey God, as Eden exists only through his grace. Adam emphasizes that their labor is a small price to pay for the freedom to roam and explore this paradise, with only one condition: they must not eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. As night falls, Gabriel and other angels begin searching the garden. They find Satan, who has transformed into a toad. Captured, Satan is brought before Gabriel. Gabriel immediately recognizes him and demands that Satan explain his presence in Eden. Satan insists he means no harm, but Gabriel does not believe him and threatens to return him to hell if he doesn't confess the truth. Instead of admitting his plans, Satan grows angry and prepares to fight. However, before the battle begins, a pair of golden scales appears from heaven, signaling that Satan cannot win. Understanding the sign, Satan retreats. If you find value in this message, remember to like the video and share it with someone who may need it today. In Book 5, Eve recounts a strange dream she had. In her dream, she hears whispers coming from the tree of knowledge. As she approaches, she sees an angel eating the forbidden fruit and inviting her to taste it as well. The angel says, "O happy and fair Eve, partake and become a goddess, no longer bound by this mortal world." Before Eve can do so, the angel vanishes, and she wakes up. Adam, worried but trying to reassure her, tells her it was just a dream and not a foretelling of the future. He reminds her that they both possess free will, the gift God has given them. At this point, God already knows Satan's entire plan but trusts that Adam and Eve, with their free will, will make the right choice. He sends the archangel Raphael to Eden to explain the difference between earthly and heavenly sustenance and to remind them of the prohibition. Raphael delivers this message to Adam, who is then responsible for sharing it with Eve. When Adam questions why one of God's creations would choose to disobey him, Raphael recounts the story of Satan and his fall. Heaven was once a place of peace until God declared that he had created a son to reign alongside him. One angel, out of jealousy and pride, protested, and due to this defiance, he was stripped of his title and cast out of heaven. Satan, once one of God's most loyal and trustworthy angels, believed he deserved to rule alongside God. His jealousy and pride led to rebellion. Satan convinced a third of the angels to join his cause and fight for control of heaven. Among them was an angel named Abdiel, who realized his mistake and tried to persuade Satan to abandon his rebellion, but to no avail. Abdiel then sought forgiveness from God and was accepted, proving that salvation is always available to those who sincerely seek it. This story continues in Book 6, where Raphael shares more details about the war in heaven. Raphael warns Adam that Satan and the fallen angels are scheming to bring about humanity's downfall. He advises Adam and Eve to be vigilant against Satan but also courageous in resisting him. In Books 7 and 8, Adam, curious, asks about the creation of the world. Raphael explains that after Satan and the rebellious angels fell, God wished to fill the void left behind. He found a part of the empty universe and created Earth. If humans obey and trust in God's will, one day heaven and earth will become one. After this long discussion, Raphael returns to heaven. In Book 9, Satan returns to the Garden of Eden, evading the angels guarding the walls. This time, he disguises himself as a serpent. The next morning, as Adam and Eve begin their work, Eve suggests they split up to complete their tasks faster. Adam reluctantly agrees, and they each go their separate ways. When Satan finds Eve, she is alone, making his plan much easier. The serpent calls out to her and begins to seduce her with flattery, praising her beauty and claiming that it is thanks to the forbidden fruit that he gained intelligence and the ability to speak. Eve tries to resist, but the serpent continues to suggest that God forbade the fruit only because it possesses a power he wishes to keep for himself. Eventually, Eve reaches out and plucks the forbidden fruit from the tree. She thinks that such a small fruit cannot cause harm and that Adam's warnings were perhaps exaggerated. She takes a bite and initially feels a rush of exhilaration but quickly begins to experience deep regret. In panic, she seeks out Adam and explains what happened. Adam realizes he must make a choice. If he wishes to remain with Eve, he too must eat the forbidden fruit and share her fate. He chooses to eat the fruit, and like Eve, he initially feels a surge of energy. They make love beneath the tree and fall asleep. Upon waking, they are overwhelmed by shame and guilt. They realize they have lost paradise forever. In despair, they cover themselves with leaves and begin to blame each other for their fall. In Book 10, the angels return to heaven to report to God what has happened, but he already knows. The angels take responsibility for failing to stop Satan, but God absolves them of guilt, as everything is part of his plan. God declares that he will send his Son to earth to judge the sinners. When the Son of God arrives, he asks Adam and Eve if they ate the forbidden fruit. Adam admits he ate it after Eve gave it to him, and Eve says she was deceived by the serpent. The Son punishes all three. The serpent will crawl on its belly forever, Adam's descendants will toil for their sustenance, and Eve's descendants will endure pain in childbirth and live in submission. After passing judgment, the Son announces that Eve's offspring will one day avenge humanity by defeating the serpent. Satan, believing he has triumphed, begins his journey back to hell. Awaiting him are sin and death, his offspring, who have completed the bridge between hell and earth, making travel between the two realms much easier. As Satan leaves Eden, sin vows to corrupt humanity's minds, and death promises to spread across all living things, bringing mortality to all. Upon returning to Pandemonium, Satan gathers the demons to recount his victory, but he does not receive the welcome he expected. Instead, hell echoes with a piercing hiss. All the demons have been transformed into serpents, a punishment from God. Hell is now filled with trees bearing fruit, but whenever the serpents try to eat the fruit, it turns to ashes. Meanwhile, as promised to Satan, sin and death arrive on earth. God informs the angels that he will allow sin and death to remain on earth until Judgment Day, when they will return to hell to face eternal punishment alongside Satan. He also declares that earth will no longer be a perfect paradise. Humanity will now endure freezing cold and scorching heat. Animals begin to turn against each other, and some even see Adam and Eve as prey. In Book 11, the Archangel Michael is tasked with expelling Adam and Eve from Eden. Although they can no longer live in paradise, Michael emphasizes that if they live righteously and morally, they will be reunited with God in heaven after death. Seeing the deep remorse in Adam and Eve, God decides that his Son will become humanity's greatest protector, ultimately sacrificing himself to atone for their sins. Before expelling Adam and Eve, Michael shows Adam the future of humanity, the events that will occur leading up to the Great Flood. In Book 12, Michael continues recounting the future after the flood. Despite the many sins of humanity, Michael assures Adam that salvation will always be available to those who repent. In the end, Adam and Eve are escorted out of the gates of paradise into the new world. They leave Eden with the pain of their loss but carry with them the hope that, even though they have lost paradise, salvation remains, waiting for those who live upright lives. Thank you for watching until the end of this video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to Sacred Journey and enable notifications to stay connected with our weekly content. Together, let us draw closer to God. See you in the next video.